Man, what's going on? On my way to pick up some food, but while we doing that, let's talk some boxing. Devin Haney versus Gamboa. Seems like it might be in the works. Devin Haney, he posted something on Twitter saying that, what would y'all think about this fight? And he put up Gamboa. And, some people were reacting to it. I mean, there was some people just like, hey, yeah, you fight somebody, be active. A lot of people were shaking their heads and saying, hell no, what is that? Just completely trashing the fight. And me personally, I find it is kind of interesting that he would even try to set that fight up, due to the fact that both he and his, co-promoter, Eddie Hearn, were both trashing Gervonta Tank Davis when he fought Gamboa. I mean, they trashed that man for doing it. And this is Gamboa signing with PBC. Gamboa, he's getting paid, so he made sure he was in weight and everything for his previous fight. Looked spectacular, everything like that. Yeah, they trashed him for like, oh, you're fighting a 40-year-old man, this and that. So now, even though, Tank was moving up in weight, so now Tank beats the bricks out this dude, catches him with all kind of shots during that fight, puts him down on multiple occasions. The guy tears his Achilles tendon, and he gets stopped. No fights in between, and you're fighting him. I think it's a bad look. I could understand if maybe Gamboa came back from his injury, had like one fight in there, maybe two. Then it was like, all right, he's looking pretty good. Let's see what I can do against him. Then I could understand it. But in this particular situation, you just look bad all the way around because of the things that you were saying previously before the fight. That's number one. Before Tank's fight, that's number one. And then number two, you beat him up, you knock him out, so what? It was already done. Recently, like his previous fight, you struggle with him in any way, you have any kind of issues with him, you look horrible. So it's a lose-lose situation. You get no credit whatsoever, due to the condition that this man is in, that we literally just saw him in. And I think it's also terrible just due to the fact that what exactly was the point of him signing to the zone and signing with Eddie Hearn? Eddie Hearn talked about getting him all these fights. He's going to be able to get him this fight and that fight. He was supposed to get him Lomachenko. Because Devin Haney, supposedly he wanted Tank and all this other stuff. He could have stayed on that route. He could have stayed on Showtime. He could have stayed, working with Showtime. In Showtime, because of this whole transition that PBC was going through, wasn't necessarily having like a major amount of fights on Showtime like that, just a few fighters. So guess who would have been showcased a lot? Devin Haney. Guess who they would have did a whole lot of shoulder programming on? Devin Haney. And because he wants to be a quote promoter, or he has a promoter's license, he could have had fights where he's on Showtime, he's having his fight, and everybody in the undercard all fight for him. They're all his guys. You could even did something like that, on a platform that people actually watch. That really would have pushed you. And when this big, huge announcement was made, besides all the, because it's Showtime boxing. So besides all the PBC fighters, one of the fighters that they could have mentioned would have been Devin Haney, whatever fights that, he's coming up with, whatever card that he's doing, even if it's not with PBC. And then if you had that relationship, you'd have all these PBC fighters available to you, and you'd have just PBC in general available to you as people that you could work with hand in hand. Even someone like Gary Russell. Gary Russell is not a PBC fighter. Gary Russell is not an Al Heyman, advised fighter anymore. But he still works with them. They still get him fights. He still fights on the cards. So they still do him right. So you could have had a positive relationship like that. But what he did was, you end up deciding to go with Eddie Hearn, who consistently tries to chastise Al Heyman, consistently tries to chastise PBC. So now you're aligning yourself with somebody who's, what he does is burn bridges. And then, that's what he does. He consistently burns bridges. And then he couldn't get you the Lomachenko fight because Top Rank was like, nah, I'm not going to have him fight him and take a chance of him losing. I'd rather have an in-house fight with Teofimo Lopez in a huge fight and just do that instead. And that's what they chose to do. That's what they decided to do instead. So, you're completely out the loop when it comes to that. You didn't even get that particular fight. And then what makes it even worse, Eddie Hearn's supposed to be a promoter. He should be able to get you something. Why couldn't you get him Campbell? Campbell's in Matchroom. He's part of Matchroom. Why couldn't he get you Campbell? Why couldn't you get you Campbell? That would have been for the belt. But he's thinking, oh, Campbell versus Ryan Garcia might be a bigger fight. Is that what he's saying? Is that what he's thinking about you? That you wouldn't be as big a fight for his guy than him fighting Mexico Ryan? So let's, put you to the side or whatever, and and let him roll with Ryan. Because even look at somebody like Demetrius Andres. Demetrius Andres is willing to fight at 160 and 168 pounds. Eddie Hearn has champions at 168 pounds. Can't get him to Demetrius Andres. Can't get him to fights. Couldn't get him any fights at 160 pounds. Canelo had 3 of the belts. He couldn't get anything done where those two could have fought for undisputed. When it came to what's his name at 100? IBF champion at 130 pounds. Damn, what the hell's his name? Don't remember his name. That was supposed to there was a possibility of him fighting Tank Davis. Tank Davis team says, hey, here's $2 million. Come over here and fight. He says, nah, you come over here to the zone. They made it clear they're not coming to the zone. Here's $2 million and come, let's do a pay-per-view fight. They say no. So Farmer go ahead, fight somebody else, takes an L. And they didn't even utilize that leverage to get money guaranteed, to have money already set for the zone. So they were good to make sure he was going to get at least that amount of money. And got effed. And now Tank's over here fighting Luis Santa Cruz, the fight that Farmer could have gotten on pay-per-view. So the question becomes what's the point of you signing to this person if he can't get you the fights? Because he used to say, oh, if these guys were signed to me, I'll be able to get this fight done, and I'll get that fight done, and I'll get this fight done. So Devin signed to him. You know what I mean? Farmer signed to him. Demetrius Andres signed to him. Yet he seems to not be able to get anything done. Even with people that are in his stable. There's zero reason why this man shouldn't have got a Campbell, at least. He should have got a Campbell. But nothing. This is the best you can do. This is all you're able to muster up. It's to have him fight someone that's coming off a loss. Somebody that you're praising so much and putting in such high stature. Somebody that's a champion. With these little tournaments going on, Linares is fighting the other Cuban. You could have had him fight the Cuban instead. We ain't talking Gamboa. Could have had him do that. But couldn't even get him that. So really, what's the point of signing to this man? I'm not sure how many fights Devin has left with the zone and with Al Heyman. I mean, with Eddie Hearn. But after that contract is done, he needs to probably make a little more better decisions than the one he's been making, because this experiment that he did is not working. And now we're in the middle of everything that's going on, and they seem to have trouble setting up cards and doing cards, and they're having fighters trying to get these fighters to do major pay cuts for fights that are already in place. And they were like, nah, we can't give you those dead numbers anymore. Mister, I got $1 billion. You know what I mean? I'm going to take over boxing in the United States. I'm going to take over boxing in the world. Time to make better decisions. So as far as this fight, what do I think about it? It's trash. No disrespect, but to me it's trash. You know what I'm saying? Somebody of that stature, your team should be able to get you a better fight. And somebody coming off being stopped off a major injury with no tune-ups in between just doesn't cut it. But we'll see what happens. But for now, like, subscribe, share. I'm out.